Hello. It's FoosTalk Live, and I'm Tom Robinson, and we are broadcasting live, sort of in an emergency situation here. We are not able to do this from our normal studio because of a power outage. And we are actually doing this from the inside of a car. Certainly, like to know if you can hear what I'm saying, but let's invite Jim to join us. Jim, this is a little unusual situation. Jim, are you there?
I am. Tom, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Wow.
Absolutely.
What a yeoman effort by you to get us going not too late from your car. And I was
Yeah.
just looking. I was just looking at the radar, and that's quite a storm. It stretches from western Kentucky all the way up into Canada, by way of course, New York State, where you are, and where our special guest tonight is also coming from. But
Right.
good job by you to travel to a signal and be able to get things going here tonight.
Yeah, the technical aspects of this are not difficult if you can find a signal. The hard part is all the trees are down in my neighborhood, so I wasn't able to actually get to a signal from my neighborhood, which is in the middle of nowhere anyway. But as long as you can hear me, as long as we're live, I think we can do this.
All right. I guess time will tell, but we will see. And you just got to deal with what. And that's one lesson, of course, we're learning these days that you just basically have to deal with it with the hand you're handed. And so you made the best of it. We are live and looking forward to a great show.
So tonight, of course, it's going to be a little different in the sense that, well, first of all, we're in a different location. But the other thing I think is going to be really different is we're talking about the future of foosball. Our special guest, John O'Brien of Foosball Clubs USA, will be joining us, provided technically he can get through. But he'll be joining us and talking about what he's doing within school systems, not just in upstate New York, but across the country, and developing a program to help kids get involved with foosball in school. What a concept, huh, Jim?
No, it is, and it's so important. Yeah, we talked about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. In the '70s up in Minnesota, there was something called the Nut Goody School Program, and out of that program came five different Hall of Famers, American Hall of Famers.
Wow.
I think there were something like 10,000 players involved in that state at that time. And we've always thought back and looked back on that and thought, producing foosball players through schools and giving kids the opportunity to play a sport. Maybe they can't play baseball, football, basketball, whatever. But as we know, anyone can play foosball,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
gives them something to be involved with. It makes them keep the grades up, the attendance up, and raises their morale. It teaches them lessons, of course, that all of us who are foosball players have learned. How to deal in pressure situations and to overcome challenges. So no, it's all good. It's great. And John O'Brien, of course, the man who has really spearheaded this movement in this country over the last few years, and what an important movement it is.
So just to bring us back into a normal track, I just want to mention that we have several sponsors to thank this evening, including 518 Prints, one of the finest printers of promotional items, T-shirts, jackets, hoodies, and foosball apparel. Visit 518prints.com and give Jesse and Mel a shout. Let them know you need some apparel put together, especially for your foosball team. Also brought to you in part by Foosballers, the movie, the spectacular Joe Hessling documentary about the sport of foosball. You can download your copy now at foosballersthemovie.com or foosballersmovie.com. And also brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, who, by the way, John O'Brien of Foosball Clubs USA will be joining us shortly here on FoosTalk Live. So, Jim, bring me up to speed here. How are things going for you on that end of the country? Any storms coming your way?
No, it's beautiful. It's 76 degrees, not a cloud in the sky up here at 7,000 feet in the San Juan Mountains of southwest Colorado. Much different than what you're experiencing there, of course. In fact, the weather has been this way now for a couple of weeks, almost perfect spring weather. And so we are hoping to take advantage of that each and every day as we gather up the kids and we head out to one of the myriad of trails that we have emanating from Durango, Colorado. We are very lucky to live where we do. So we're able to enjoy this amazing weather. Not much hiking in your neck of the woods right
Yeah,
now, though, Tom.
very true. You'd need to take a hard hat. Let's put it that way, just in
Yeah.
case. I mean, it's great to live in the forest most of the time, except for
Yeah.
situations like this, to say the least. And I'm just wondering, have you had any more news about upcoming tournaments? Anything that you might have heard? I know that I saw a couple of postings this week regarding the World Championships. Are you still planning on going?
Well, at this stage, yes. Of course, that's how this is all working. We kind of do everything incrementally. We do all that we can to plan for things, and then in the hopes that they will happen. But also, we're ready to make any adjustments that are necessary. Yes, I'm still scheduled to work events coming up here in the next few months. We'll see how it all plays out. I was talking with Alan Reese of the big money guy who has played in so many of these big money matches, but he's running a tournament in North Carolina in August, and it's gung ho. He's all out here. We did talk a little bit about some of the things that might have to take place once we resume tournaments, and of course that means maybe putting the tables farther apart. I was talking with another, not to name drop again, but with the great German player Christopher Marx. And in Germany right now, where they have so many foosball tables, they are developing these, I guess you'd call them sneeze guards or whatever, that would hang across the middle of the table to sort of protect you from your opponents, so to speak. And so
Right.
there's that option. The other thing that sort of occurred to me, DYPs. Do you want to play with someone who have just met, who is coming from another part of the country? I don't know. These are things we have to think about. Maybe when you plan to play in a doubles event moving forward, you kind of want to know that person's history. Have they been quarantining? Have they been careful? Are they, practicing social distancing? But in a DYP, you really don't have that kind of control. You're meeting somebody for the first time. So maybe, at least on the national level at major events, maybe we're kind of seeing, at least temporarily,
Sure.
the lack of draw your partners at these events, because I'm not sure how you can do it.
Yeah, it's a dilemma, and I guess the other part of this is going to be: do the players feel safe? Do they feel like they can go and give their all, give their best, and still? I mean, obviously, a lot of us would sacrifice a lot to play right about now. Just wondering how far that might go.
Yeah, I know. It's again, like so many things, there are unknowns ahead of us. We have to take everything one day at a time and kind of see how things play out. But and one other thing I did want to bring up, and again, this is going to be a topic of conversation, I think, every week for us moving forward as we move closer to eventually returning to the pro tour. But and we'd love to hear from you out there. And again, also tonight, it's an opportunity to call and ask questions of the man who knows Foosball Clubs USA, knows about a scholastic school program better than anyone, and that's John O'Brien. So please call with your questions tonight. If not, send me a message. If you don't want to hear your voice on the radio, send me a message with a question for John, and we'd love to query him about what he's doing. And now, John also, Tom, has his finger in several pies. He's also an
Oh,
executive. He's on the executive board of the USTSO, the United States Table Soccer Organization, headed up by Donald Wilson. He's also on the executive board of the USTSO club system, which we'll have more information moving forward on that, and once clubs become feasible again. So John
nice.
is really very much involved with so many aspects of pushing the sport forward, beginning with, of course, the scholastic program, Foosball Clubs USA.
Wow. Yeah. John is certainly an active individual, including a very active technology teacher in his school system. This guy, of course, I don't know when he sleeps. I think that's the first question I'd like to ask John. When exactly do you get any rest? Of course, these days it's probably a little bit more rest than usual because of the circumstances of
Yeah.
most schools being closed for business at the moment. But yeah, so eventually things are going to come back, and I'm wondering what his plans might be. So it looks like we are able to connect with John, but he's not able to get into the mix here. But we'll get him in very short order. I know we discussed earlier. We've been doing a tradition every week, Jim,
Yeah.
drinking an IPA.
Yeah.
I think, given our audience this week, that might be something we can put off till next episode. What do you think?
Yeah, no, and in anticipation of that, John or Tom, and in respect for John, I'm having a seltzer tonight, a passion fruit seltzer.
Very
That's what I'm
nice.
having. Hmm.
I'm having a cup of coffee, if that
I bet you are.
just to keep me going. Hey, I want to welcome Deb Robison, who's also from Foosball Clubs USA. I recognize your name immediately, Deb. Welcome to Foos Talk Live. Thanks for joining us.
Hi there, how are you?
Hi,
We're
Deb.
well.
Nice to hear from you. And of course, Deb and I met each other earlier this year in Lexington at the tour kickoff. I believe you're from Cincinnati or in that area up in Ohio, correct?
I am from Cincinnati. Well, I just thought while we're kind of waiting for John to join us, I thought that maybe I would just throw out a question for people to think about. When we think about youth being involved with foosball clubs or foosball at all, what I've been really inspired by as I've met foosball players is their stories of who really inspired them, who mentored them when they came into foosball, and how that relationship has impacted their life. And so I'm going to turn the tables a little bit and ask, maybe would you two be willing to answer that question? Like, who brought you into foosball, and how has that mentoring kind of relationship just inspired you and carried you forward in life?
Jim, I think that's one that I'm going to have you step into first because mine is a little odd. But Jim, go ahead. You answer the question.
Well, I think it was probably several people. When I first started, it was me and my friends, and none of us had really played before, and we kind of jumped into it and played against better players than us, and instead of being fearful of playing better players, we really embraced it, and we got better rather quickly. But there's a gentleman, and he's in the Table Soccer Hall of Fame, named Ken Allwell, who in the late 1970s was a push kicker, one of the great players on the tournament soccer tour, and I had a chance to read his notes. And back in those days, they were playing for such big money, against great competition on a couple, 2 or 3 times a month, that you really had to keep notes not only on the opponents but also on your mental approach to the game. And I had a chance to read his notes, and it really changed my entire approach to the game, and it was so beneficial to me. So I guess if I have to credit one person, it would be the great Ken Allwell, the Hall of Famer out of Minnesota.
Nice,
Very,
nice.
very cool. Very cool. So, Deb, I know that you're involved with Foosball Clubs USA. Now, how did you actually come to meet John, and how did you get involved in that group?
I'm actually not really a foosball player, although I enjoy it and I think it's a lot of fun. I'm really bad at it.
Oh,
Um,
join the party.
but I am a social worker, and I worked in a local school district, and I happened to connect with uh, David Palacastro, who is the foosball guru here in Cincinnati, and he was looking to start working with young people. And I am always looking to figure out how to get young people involved with activities, alternate activities that will help keep them safe, keep them connected to caring adults,
Right.
keep them moving in the right direction. And it really just kind of evolved over that. Dave kind of had this vision of putting a foosball table in a local comic book store. Ours is a little bit of a hybrid kind of club. So he put this foosball table in a comic book store, and we had this great partner in the comic book store owner that allowed kids to come in and kind of hang out and play foosball. And because of the location and where it was, we invited the local players to come, the local more experienced players to come, which really offered this really great intersection of real life experience to our kids. So people would come in and they would get to know the kids a little bit. And I'm always fascinated to see who connects with which child. And so, we post things on Facebook, and people will always ask me, well, how is this one doing? And what's going on with that? And how is this one doing? And what's going on with that? And the kids always want to know who's coming this week. And because they have their favorites too, but
Right.
they're learning a lot, right? And and so it kind of grew out of that, and then Dave connected me to John, and through that it just kind of exploded. I think that what John is doing in working to get foosball clubs across the country is really a phenomenal task, because I think one of you mentioned before that anybody can play foosball. And I think that that's really an integral piece of this, that our young people who may not have the confidence or the ability or the time or the finances to support something like football or basketball or
Sure.
Some of those other sports, can get in and right away they can have kind of immediate success, right? They
Yep.
get in and they play, and it's a quick cycle. So in just a matter of minutes, they might lose, but they might win, and very quickly they learn, oh, I did that right. Oh, that really worked. So for kids, especially kids that may not have had success in other areas, that quick kind of gratification is really helpful in helping them kind of master a skill very quickly. And then all of a sudden you've got these kids that have mastered skills feeling pretty darn good about themselves. So there's this whole kind of storm brewing around caring adults that are coming in and encouraging kids and caring about kids and telling them the good things that they're doing, and they're building these skills, and like you mentioned, the skills that they're learning really are transferable into real life. So they're learning negotiating with their partner, they're learning how to communicate with their partner, they're learning how to be a good sport and say congratulations at the end, they're learning how to problem solve, how to look at a situation and say, how do I do that better next time?
Yes.
All of those skills are transferable. And I think that foosball is this really great vehicle to allow kids to have these incredible successes and develop these incredible relationships with people that will impact their lives forever.
Yeah, no, it's really pretty amazing. I know we spoke with Mark Drillette on Foosball Radio a while ago on something called The Next Generation, one of our early episodes. And Mark is a teacher, as you know, in upstate New York. And he told the story of one student who was missing around 40 school days a year. That was his average. Now, he was introduced to foosball and little by little got addicted, like so many do. And after the first year of playing foosball and showing up for school to do it, he missed one day in that the next year. Wow. One day.
Awesome. And we've had similar.
Okay.
And
two things. Go ahead, Deb.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to touch on two things that you said. Obviously, it's so important to have the mentors, whether it's in sports, whether it's in the classroom. We can always kind of look back on our lives and think back to a teacher that we remember or a coach who inspired us, who really directed us in the right direction on these things. And that is so vitally important for kids at this stage. But the other thing was about confidence. The sense of accomplishment, even of a little thing, that confidence. And as we all know, in almost everything, confidence is everything. And it's so great for these kids not only to have that direction and doing it the right way, which is what John is pushing everyone to do in a good, positive way, but also to develop that confidence. And as you said, Deb, the skills you learn on the foosball table can be transferred to everyday life. And it's something, it's almost like our martial art, where we learn about life, we learn how to attack, we learn how to defend, and we learn how to deal with ourselves as well.
I'd like to use an example of one of the members of our foosball club here in the Capital Region, 518 Foosers, or 518 Foosball Club. He's very young. He's 12 now, but he started playing when he was roughly 8 years old. And he's a small guy. He's not the same size as a lot of the kids his same age, but he will annihilate just about any adult player he comes across. His name is Sam DeJean, and what a talent! The kid is going to be, if he continues in his current path, is going to be a superstar within the industry, within foosball. Of course, he'll probably discover women or dating someday. May change, but if he stays on the same course, if he stays involved and stays charged up the way he is right now, Jim, I believe he's supposedly, if foosball was continuing with competition this year, he had a potential to become a pro at the age of 12. Is that correct?
Yeah. I
Wow.
believe that is true, and deservingly so, I must tell you. Yes, he is small in stature, but boy, is he big in game. As
Yeah.
you said, he's better than 90% of the adult players out there. He is truly phenomenal to watch. And he's an athlete. I mean, this
Yeah.
is a guy who plays this at a very high level, and who knows what the future will be like for Sam DeJohn. But but that he is a great example of someone who is playing a sport at a very high level, although perhaps physically limited, at least as far as size goes.
Sure. Yep, absolutely. Now, Deb, I know you asked the question, how do we actually get inspired to play this game?
Mhm.
And just to let you know, in no uncertain terms, I did have an inspiration, but it was pizza. It
Fair
wasn't
enough.
wasn't a person. In my neighborhood, growing up, I was probably 14 or 15 when a pizzeria in my neighborhood installed a foosball table.
There you go.
And the brothers, there was three brothers who ran the place. It was called the Italian Kitchen, and they had a bunzini table they set up inside the pizzeria, and it just barely fit. But the first time I saw the thing, I had no idea what it was. But one of the youngest of the brothers said, "Hey, I'll show you how to play this thing if you want." And so myself and two or three of my friends would show up every once in a while, and the brothers would just, murder us on the table. They were so good at what they did. But little by little, we kept coming back for more and wanted to do this again and again and again. And eventually, within, I would say, 6 months, 7 months, we were all addicted.
Mhm.
And so whether we ate pizza or not, we'd show up at that pizzeria and spend hours, playing foosball.
So that's a really great point though too, and that the idea that a community kind of got behind youth involvement in some way.
Yes.
They rallied around and said, "Hey, we've got space. We can make this happen. We will welcome young people into our space." And they may have, it may have been like to get the quarters out of the table. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that all of us can do to promote foosball clubs in schools are those little things. So you may be a business owner that has a little space and can set up
Right.
a table and start to get kids interested. You
Yeah.
may be somebody who works in a school like myself or Mark or John and be able to kind of navigate the school system to make that happen.
Yep.
You may be somebody who has an extra table in your house and you want to give it to a school or give it to a young person, a promising young person to practice. You may be somebody who's just independently wealthy and want to donate to Foosball Clubs USA.
That would be great.
That
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
awesome. That would be
Yeah.
awesome. But there are lots of ways that people can invest in the lives of young people through this idea of foosball in schools. And really, whatever I know that one of our local folks, Donna Carroll, you may know her.
Okay.
She went with me. We're starting to kind of branch out. We had the kids in our group do this as kind of a substance abuse prevention activity. And
Got
so
it.
they were connected to another local youth substance abuse group in the area, and they were telling them about how they play foosball on Friday nights. And those kids got excited. So Donna and myself and a couple of our kids went to their meeting and taught them just some basics on foosball. And that was, Donna volunteered her time.
Wow.
She went and taught like the basics. Here are the rules. Here are some basic kinds of things. And then 2 weeks later, our kids hosted a tournament and invited them. And several
Wow.
of the aerial foosball players came and brought snacks and things like that. There are a lot of different ways that people can be involved. So what I would encourage people to do is think about how might you and what gifts and abilities you have promote the idea of young people gaining access to foosball. And whether that's, whether that's you have a connection to somebody who can help make something happen. Maybe it's just going to your own child's school and saying, "Hey, I really want this to happen." Maybe it's
Right.
you saying, "I don't have any money, I don't have any funds, I don't have anything, but I'm willing to go to a school and be a coach, be a leader." So I think there are lots of things. And I think that's where connecting with John is really helpful because John has his finger on the pulse of what's going on around the country. And I know there's been a couple of times people have called him and said, hey, I've got this table. And he's like, I know who to send you to. Here's where you go. So foosball clubs can be a really great resource if you want to be involved and you don't know how. And certainly we would welcome any of that.
So now, just in the nick of time, our guest for this week has joined us from Foosball Clubs USA. Please welcome John O'Brien to FoosTalk Live.
Hey there, guys. Can you hear me?
We can.
Sorry for the technical difficulties.
It's okay.
It's been that kind of night.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we had set up one method yesterday, and we had to alter that method, so I had to adjust.
John, so I because you're a science person, you're a technology teacher, I need to explain to you that I am so devoted to what I do that I'm willing to challenge Murphy's Law to a duel. You can try and throw a tree at me, you can try and throw a lightning bolt, I'm still going to do this.
And did I understand right that you had a power outage over your way?
Oh, yeah, it's still out. I'm sitting in the parking lot of a darkened convenience store, and I'm hoping they're not thinking that I'm going to try and rob the place.
Oh, boy. Well, hey, Deb, you still on?
Yes, I am.
Oh, it was so encouraging as I'm frantically over here trying to set things up on my wife's phone instead of my own phone. It was great hearing you jump in there. So,
yes.
Well, it's all you now.
Oh, no. Well, that's an interesting thought, because it really, one of the messages for tonight is that it's all of us. I mean, this is such, you already commented on it. It's such a big job. This is all of us. Yeah.
So just before
everybody that you're listening to FoosTalk Live with Tom Robinson and Jim Stevens, joined now by not only Deb Robinson but also by John O'Brien. And good to hear your voice, John. Good to hear from you. Glad you were finally able to get on line here. I'm of course here in Durango, Colorado. Tom Robinson in his car somewhere in the greater Albany, New York area. Great job by both of you. And I know, John, you probably had a little bit of that weather as well. But
we did.
We can get down to business now. Deb has been fantastic. We'd love for you to stay on for a little bit, Deb, if you'd like.
Yes.
Sure, I can do that.
But John, talk a little bit about what initially motivated you to get involved with a scholastic program and then to develop Foosball Clubs USA. What was sort of the trigger that got you involved?
That nothing existed already.
Right.
I think I've shared with some of you before. I had no intention, no idea to start a program. I simply brought a used table into my school. I teach technology, and I have a lab, and there was this alcove area, and I brought a table into my school because my children at home who didn't play, when my daughter who did play with me went off to college, they said, Dad, get this table out of the living room. So I brought it into school. And I shouldn't have been surprised, but the kids really took to it. So this is like 2008, okay? And so for about 2 years, my students, they'd rush down early and they'd play. And this is an old kind of a beat-up Premier table, nothing really fancy. And one thing led to another, and I realized, okay, kids are getting into this. Maybe I should see if we could start a school club. And so I approached my administration and asked them if we could start a foosball club, and they had already seen the students enjoying it. We used the table during sort of recreational afternoons, but they said, no, we're not starting any more clubs. There's no money for clubs, and so that was a kind of a closed door there. But during that time, I had been reaching out and looking online, trying to figure out, okay, who's playing foosball and what are the organizations, what are the tables being played on? I know you guys were talking about, earlier tables. I didn't start playing until I was in college. And so I played on a hurricane table. It was one of the popular tables when I was in college. And so I looked around and I found that, Tornado was one of the dominant tables being played on. I saw, the Bonzini, I saw this Fireball table, I saw Warrior. And I just started contacting manufacturers to try to see if they could give me a deal to buy a table for school. But then everything came to a halt because my school said, no, we're not going to start a club. So a few months later, I heard that my after-school program wanted more activities for our 3 to 5 program. And this is very well attended. Students from 5th grade to 8th grade, very, very involved in this program, hundreds of kids. And so I thought, there might be an avenue. And there was grant money available. And so I pitched the idea of starting a program with 2 tables, and they approved it. And so we bought 2. Dave Corrington, I consider like the godfather of our program here, because he was still over at Valley Dynamo, and he helped me pick up 2 tables. They were home model tables, just the classic home model table. Nothing, didn't have the split bearings, but as far as I was concerned, I mean, that was a much better table than I was playing on in my school already. Right. And so after 2 years of this after school program going, I said to the kids, how would you like to, and we did in-house tournaments, but what ended up happening is the same kids were playing each other, and it was getting repetitive. And so I said, how would you like to play against other schools? And their eyes lit up and they were like, yeah, that's great. The problem was there were no other schools to play against. And so I started taking my table, the one I brought into my school, I started taking it on the road to neighboring schools where I knew teachers and administrators, and putting on clinics. And I simply wanted to find another school or start a program at a local school where we could play against each other. And so it was purely self-serving. I wanted to find competition for my own students. But through the course of it, I realized, okay, there's a need here. And so I reached out and I found the website for the old USTSF, and I didn't realize that it had become sort of defunct by then. But Kevin Westcott here in New York was listed as the rep for the program, and so I contacted Kevin and worked with him for a few months, and got put in touch with some people, and finally I took a few of my players down to Syracuse to the New York State tournament was being held in Syracuse. That time was like 2011, 2012, and that was a great experience. We walked into this ballroom. You guys know the setup. I walked into this ballroom and there was like 40 tables set up. I mean, I had never seen 40 tables set up in one spot before. And I brought 8 players with me. And we played in the junior division. And the only 4 other players were the Fisher brothers, Liam and Joe Fisher, who were gracious to my players, because my players, we were so green, so new. And then Kevin's younger daughter played, and then some other young friend. So out of the 12 players, Joe and Liam were like head and shoulders above everybody, physically as well as skill-wise. But the crowds of players that gathered round, because we had these 8 kids who all came with their self-tie-dyed shirts with their names on the back, and this was something. And I realized, okay, the adults who are here at this tournament, they're not used to seeing groups of juniors playing like this. I mean, so they were thrilled. Charles McIntosh was down there and warmly greeted the kids and gave them all sorts of freebies. And now looking back at some of the pictures, I realized, some of the players that were there that I didn't know at the time. I was going through my pictures, and my computer kind of scans for faces, and all of a sudden Todd Lafredo's face pops up. I was like, why is Todd on my computer? And I found the picture, and it's like, oh, that's a picture of this tournament. He's there watching the kids playing, and so many other folks in the background. And so it still took about 2 years for us to officially form Foosball Clubs USA. What happened was I realized, all right, if we're going to help schools get started, I personally thought at the time that the biggest hurdle was going to be the cost of tables. And so I started contacting table manufacturers, and everybody was great. Brendan Flaherty was wonderful, and Tornado was good, and so I thought that the cost of the table was what we needed to get down. And so we did. We worked out a kind of a deal where we could buy tables for schools. But what we did find is that, no, the cost of the table, that's a factor. But it really was that we needed to talk a language that the schools could understand. If we came in like a vendor trying to sell them a product, like a table, even though we think it's a good product, we're not going to be well received. And so I kind of figured, okay, I really need to be a nonprofit. And so we researched and did the work. I say we, just a few other teacher friends and myself. We needed 3 people to form a board. So we formed this nonprofit organization, and we finally formed it in January 2015. And the idea was we need to be able to come alongside schools, talk their language. We were educators. We knew that they had connecting students with school in mind. They had these after-school programs. They didn't want just another program. They wanted a tool to help them connect with kids. And so we formed Foosball Clubs USA with that in mind. Now, I've probably given you way more than you expected with the first question.
No, good stuff. Very, very good stuff. And again, folks, this is a chance to call in and ask John O'Brien how you can get involved, or if you have any questions at all about how you can form a program in your area. It would be a great opportunity. We do have an open line. We'd love to hear from you. And by the way, Tom and John and Deb, I do see you listening out there. I see Alan Turner from Washington State.
Oh, good.
Well, he's out there. Stacy Fowler in the state of Iowa, who has been very involved with school programs.
Hello there, folks.
And I think, and Dan Hom out of Evergreen, Colorado, as well, who has a very large program, I believe it is, school.
Yep, Dan got involved this past year. Yep.
We have right now on the line. We actually have a caller right now. Rob has called in. Rob, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. And thank you for calling FoosTalk.
Hello, Rob.
Live.
Hi, John. This is Rob from Rhode Island. I'm a fellow technology teacher.
Yeah, Bob Skinner, right?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Rob.
And I wanted to thank John for helping me set up my program at my high school. I talked to him over a year ago when I found on Facebook Foosball Clubs USA.
Nice.
And through wheeling and dealing, we have 4 tornado tables in my classroom.
Wow.
That's how it usually starts out. Yeah.
And I have Tuesdays is known as Foos Day, and kids will come out Tuesdays after school and play, and we'll do singles and doubles and goalie wars and all that stuff. So it's just been a fantastic experience. I've had kids tell me, come in and say, I did all my homework last night so I could play foosball today.
That is awesome.
We like to hear that.
And so my question is, do you have a program or an app that you recommend to help me set up a single elimination or double elimination tournaments? It's hard because sometimes you don't know who's showing up, who's not showing up, and I'd love to have somewhere where I could just I use a whiteboard, but I would love to have some type of program that would help me. And then the next thing is I've also established league play where all of my kids that show up on a weekly basis, I award them points so that they can be kind of ranked within the high school, and we know who's better or who at the moment. So do you know of anything that exists like that would help keep track of rankings for the players?
Now, you're talking about just for the one tournament or in an ongoing fashion?
I like it as an ongoing. I did it by quarters, so every 10 weeks we kind of reset a little bit, and I just kind of do it manually, awarding a couple points for a win, and then singles and like a doubles play you get like 1 point.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know if you knew how do you keep track of? Number one, do you rank your players in your school, and number two, how do you track your players' wins?
Yep. Well, we both rank them, and sometimes we rank on them. But especially when they mess up. No. Anyway, so we've tried a few different things, and at the moment, we're not using any piece of software because, like you said, things change. But over time, we hold events where players get ranked, and we'll do round robin tournaments, and we'll keep track of their performance that way. Sometimes it's by game, sometimes it's by points. We've come up with really quick, like just 5 ball games that you play against each other because there's so many playing in this round robin. And we're forced to do it because, as you know, we're involved as a school in the big New York State junior tournament, and it's grown to the point where we have to limit, at least in my school and Mark Gillette's school is another big program here in New York State, we have to limit how many of our players we get to bring. So I only get to take 16 students, and so we'll take 2 teams of 4 players in each of the 2 age brackets that we've used in the past. And so we have to whittle down to come up with that travel team. And we do that through a round robin. We have ranked our players like 1, 2, 3, 4 in a ranking system because sometimes we'll want to do handicapping. We just recently, before school shut down, our last tournament, we did a handicapping system. And so we rank them in that sense. But sometimes that has to be ranked not as an absolute, but kind of among the players who are there that day. Right now, and I think Jim and Tom are going to ask a little bit about this, about my involvement with USTSO, the U.S. Table Soccer Organization. Tracy McMillan is kind of spearheading for us, coming up with a ranking system, for us to use within our own selves. It's going to be tied in with ITSF, and but we're exploring, we're looking at how different sports do these things. Of course, some already exist, and so that's a work under development. I don't know if that helps you move forward, but right now we're just doing it on paper. We're not using a piece of software.
Yeah, you can get
the
brackets. You can get the brackets at brackets.com, I believe. And also another option, I think, is netfoos.com for running something fairly simple as well. A couple of different options. But Rob, great to hear from you from the state of Rhode Island.
Thanks, John. Nice to talk to you.
Rob, before you go, so how many players do you have coming out?
So I have right around 15 to 20 on any given week. Wow. But my challenge is a lot of them are seniors this year, so I'm going to have to really recruit the freshman class hard to replace those players.
Now, what about local schools in your area? Any contact with them?
I definitely have some interest. I just have to. I've talked to 3 of my neighboring schools to try to say, hey, let's get a team together and come over and play. But it's, I was getting close, and then of course, coronavirus happened.
Right. Yeah.
But and I'm also looking at next year. I'd love to get up in touch base with 518 because I can make the trip to Albany back in an afternoon.
Oh, please
and maybe
do.
set something up with a foosball group over there. Absolutely,
please do. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, and there's times that Mark Gillette, who's up in the Champlain area, and myself over in Wolcott will bring players over to 518 for some of their Saturday events. So if we know you're going to be there.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
Yeah.
Someone else just chimed in, sent a quick text to let you know that what you should do is have your senior players go through what they call an adoption program and have them adopt or mentor a freshman, like part of the requirements.
Cool. That's a great idea. Yeah, that's great. All right, I'll get off the line now. Thanks, guys. This is
thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
It looks like we've got plenty of people wanting to call in tonight, which is good news.
I know that there's 2 young men that want to get on together. So I don't know if we have 2 lines.
I will jump off.
Okay, Deb.
Deb, great
We can always
stuff.
invite you to come back in later too.
Okay, I'll talk to you
Absolutely.
soon.
Sounds good,
Thanks,
Deb.
Deb.
Thanks for
Deb.
calling. All right, so we have somebody right away. Let's see. The label is Turk. Turk, can you hear us?
I know who
Hello.
this is.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can.
Can you hear me now?
That's Elwood Foos, I believe.
This is-
Okay.
It's Aussie Allen right now because I'm sequestered in Melbourne, Australia.
I was going to say, Alan,
Wow.
are you trying to get the award for who calls in from the farthest away?
I think I got that one down pat.
You do.
Well
I can't get any farther. Yeah, no, I'm done. Actually, I'm one of the things that I'm hoping to do this week. They've kind of loosened up their social distancing stuff here. I hope to get over to see Lauren Burchett over, and he's a Fooser down here I've met with many times, or at least the 3 times I've been down here before, and maybe even get in a little bit of play. That'd be kind of fun. But anyway, hey, here I am. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but there you go.
So, Alan, is it 11 o'clock over there Saturday morning?
Shit, I don't even know, man. It's yeah, it's 10:53. Okay,
Yeah.
I was thinking, when I saw the initial podcast thing, I got plenty of time. It's going to be at 1 o'clock, and then of course I was thinking Pacific Daylight Time because then we're 17 hours ahead. Hey, believe me, tomorrow will come. Trust me, it is Saturday. Yeah.
Hey, Alan, quick question for you, Alan. Of course, Alan, I want to say you're a vice principal at a school up in the Pacific Northwest. First question, though, have you acquired a taste for Vegemite yet?
I actually have been on a regimen. You have to get the butter Vegemite balance just correct, and it's about half and half on a cracker or toast or anything like that. Yeah.
Oh man.
But talk a little bit, Alan. I know you were really on the cutting edge of school programs, at least within this past decade. Talk a little bit about what you were doing up in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, up until we closed, I've got 5 tables in our lunchroom, and every day I'm down there during lunch times, and I sure miss it, man. Having all these kids playing. I mean, the tournaments lately that I run during lunchtime, I'll have 3 separate tournaments, and they'll run for weeks, usually a couple of weeks to finish one.
Wow.
And I'll get anywhere between 50 to 70 kids each day playing, involved in the tournament. They won't all necessarily be playing each day, but
this is a silly question, but I'm wondering, do you notice the kids forming rivalries? Like they kind of get into maybe trash talking, this kind of thing?
Yeah, a little bit, but in middle school, they're really just I think they're so focused on just trying to learn the skills that they need to beat the opponent, and that's big for them. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can hear my wife. She's out talking we've got the family down here. I've got a new granddaughter, so it's really cool.
Yeah, congratulations.
Hey, thank you.
Now, Alan, you and Kathy Brainard go way back with foosball programs. And so when did you actually start your first school program?
I was in 1999 when I started at Briar Terrace Middle School. Yeah. And I came in and I was like, oh my God, there's a couple of tables over in the corner of the lunchroom, and I used to play that when I was in high school. Yeah.
And if any of you have ever seen Alan Turner at a tournament, you can usually count on at least one day, usually in open doubles with Rich Fosner. Alan is dressed up in the sunglasses. He's got the suit on. He is Elwood Blues. Rich Fosner is Jake Blues. They are the Foos brothers, and they've been doing this for quite a while. And really, Alan, I got to tell you, I love that. It brings so much personality to these events.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jim. I appreciate the kudos there. I sure appreciate all that you do, Jim and John. Josh, you're just doing great stuff. I'd like to get more involvement here. And my wife's just walking in the phone. She's got another meeting going on. I'm like, they're like, oh shit, we're zoomed out and all these different meetings. But anyway, I forgot, where were we?
Are you sure it's
Australia.
only 10 in the morning down there?
Whatever.
But thank you, Alan. Thanks for. Did you have another question for John, or are you just kind of checking in with us from down under?
No, I just wanted to pipe in and say good day and I wish you all the best. And
Alan,
let's all keep safe and
we're
get through
honored
this.
to have you join us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Coming from the land where they call the slingshot the boomerang.
Yeah, the boomerang. I haven't seen anybody flying them around the neighborhood here, but
Yeah. Thanks, Alan.
all right, take care.
Alan.
Good luck, and
All right.
Say
we'll
hi to
talk
the
soon.
family.
Thanks, Alan.
Will
Safe
do.
travels.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
And there is a small scene, I think, down in Australia on the fireball table. I believe they have a scene, and maybe even on Tornado a few years ago. So maybe he'll be able to find a game here in the next few weeks. Who knows?
Oh, absolutely. With given enough time, we all might get to play again. You never know. So we've got another caller already. John, you're the most popular guest we've had so far. We want to welcome Slay's Player is our next guest. Welcome to FoosTalk Live.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And how are you?
Slay's, what's your real name?
So my real name is Michael Stahl, and I'm out of
Lansing,
Michigan.
Welcome,
How's
Michael.
it going, everybody?
Great.
Hey, Michael. Good to hear from you from the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to jump on here and talk a little bit of foosball. Love the talk show. I love the entertainment on a Friday night. It's good to hear everyone's cracking a brew and hanging out.
With the exception of John, of course.
Yeah. Hey, so Mike, I know. Thanks for calling in. You just got out of work?
I did. I just got done for the day, and I'm home.
Great.
And I'm kicking back.
Now, you and I have talked about this. You were part of Team USA in the past, weren't you? Junior Team USA?
Yeah, so I was on the two junior teams in 2013 and 2014 that took the bronze medal 2 years in a row at the World Cup in Nantes, France. And it was... Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, talk about your experience a little bit. I mean, here you are, you're a 16, 17-year-old kid. You're traveling over to Europe to play a game that you love. What was that experience like? If you can put it into words, how special it was to you, please let us know what your experience was as a very young man.
Well, I probably couldn't do the experience justice by putting it into words, but I'll certainly try. It was probably the most memorable and amazing times of my life and in my competitive career, early career of foosball. As a 16-year-old dude just flying into Paris and then driving to Nantes, it was really amazing, and just all the different countries that played, and it was amazing. I mean, you make friends that you have for life, and I still talk to people. I've got friends from France and different countries that I still keep in contact with, and it's unbelievable. It is truly the highest stage in competitive foosball, period. And just the camaraderie and playing for your country. I mean, it's just unreal. I mean, if you have a chance, people out there listening right now, if you have a chance to ever be on Team USA or ever be in a team event, a multi-table team event, just drop everything and do it, because it literally changed my life. And to be able to do it 2 years in a row, just unreal, and a podium both years. I mean, it was amazing. And I'm going to go back and hopefully be on the men's team someday and get gold, that gold medal, because the taste of bronze, it leaves a funny taste in your mouth, a good taste, but...
Hey, so what was the junior youth kind of foosball activity like when you were playing? I mean, you're a second generation foosball player, but what was it like? How many other kids were playing?
Competitively, locally, I had a couple players I played against, Justin Chandler, Garrett Abbey here in Lansing, and a couple other younger dudes that were playing back then. But nationally, I mean, I was playing against the Dylan Marshalls, the Paul Smiths. I guess Dakota Diaz wasn't really on the scene yet. Mike Bridgman. These guys were really great players. John Smith's son, really great player. So it was really cool to be able to play a lot of those guys. Blake Robinson, he wasn't, I think he was, he just got out of junior when I jumped in. But it was really amazing to be able to play some of the guys that are top pros and you know, almost pro masters now. Probably not as, you know, intense as it was, you know, maybe in the 90s, but it was really cool.
Well, to give the listeners a little bit of perspective on junior teams around the world, a third place finish, a bronze medal 2 years in a row is really, really strong. When you look at countries like the Netherlands and Germany and Belgium and France, who continue to produce really good young players, many of whom have gone on to become world champions, like Thomas Haas and Marvin Velasco of Germany and others. But you were playing against some really good, strong junior teams when you were competing for Team USA.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. What was really tough, and it is really awesome that we podiumed for a team that didn't really play on the other tables. I mean, we only played on Tornado.
Yeah.
So in all these other countries, they're so well prepared. They've got training centers in Europe. It's just insane, as you know, Jim. It's so active and just they're so well prepared. I mean, they've got training centers in almost every country, and a lot of the junior teams are so stacked. I know we played Germany, and we had a match point against Germany to get to the finals, I believe, and they were just unreal. I mean, just so competitive, so intense. Just the atmosphere at the World Cup it's just, you know, only the strong survive. I mean, just teams yelling at each other, kids yelling at each other, coaches yelling at their kids in a good way.
Sounds like Little League.
It felt like big leagues. It was pretty cool though.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, playing guys like Marvin Velasco was pretty cool. He's just unreal German player. Never really got to play Thomas because I think he was pretty new to the game. I don't even think he was playing back then, but which is insane. But yeah, I mean, it was just incredible to be able to be a part of Team USA on that high of a level and to do as well as we did. Only really playing on Tornado, and I think the first year it was on Fireball, and we didn't even really play on Fireball either. So it was pretty cool.
Well, Michael, you raised an interesting point there when you mentioned how in Europe and a lot of countries they have their own training centers. This concept has never seemed to succeed here in the United States. I'm not aware of any training centers, regional, state, or national of any kind. Why is that?
Well, sir, it hasn't succeeded yet. There's a beautiful thing called the USTSO, and I'm actually the Midwest representative for it. And we're really building onto something special. And I think a part of our plan is getting those centers started, getting these clubs started. It's really just a club. If you can get a club started with players who are actively engaged and they come every week, and you've got different training tables and different different competitions on different tables, then you have a training center. So really what we need to do is we need to just get foosball out of bars and into clubs. It's the club system is the way to go. Jim Stevens, a pioneer of this idealism, and I'm totally behind him every step of the way with that. We need to get clubs, and that's the way to do it.
Yeah, there are more than I think 700 clubs in Germany and a similar number in France, and it really creates an infrastructure that allows for the dissemination of information. It allows for competition. It is a great system, and we are headed in that direction certainly. And you also mentioned the training centers, and I've had a chance to go to a couple of them. And these centers have not only every ITSF table, but probably 3 or 4 others that are non-ITSF. There's one in Hamburg, Germany that I went to that I think had 12 different table styles in there. And the one thing you see is that the ability to train for these multi-table tournaments by practicing on each one. However, the one thing I've seen over the last, 6 or 7 years is how players more and more are sort of going to the tornado table internationally. They understand that it's a table that probably develops a deeper, a richer style of game. And also, if you're going to compete against the great Americans, you of course have to perfect that table. But it's just, I think, in the minds of many of the German players, the players from the Netherlands, and even France, it has become a table of focus. It's a very popular table internationally. And that was not always the case, primarily because it was difficult to shoot a pin shot on it, and which is what most Europeans shot 10 or 15 years ago. But more and more, we have seen the snake shot now. You're able to shoot it on every single different type of table. And I think more and more it's become a more homogenized style of play, which is a tornado table. So it's been kind of interesting to see that evolution, Michael.
Absolutely. I think the tornado table is the Cadillac of foosball tables. I've played on a lot of different tables out there, going to the cup and just having different tables around my neighborhood and checking certain tables out. Tornado is the standard. And a lot of people know that. And the American teams, I think another reason why you see people really gravitating towards the tornado team is because the so incredibly dominant American force that is our men's team. We are the guys to beat. And so if you want to beat us, you got to be able to beat us on our table. And that's how it works at the cup.
Yeah, so the Americans have won 6 of the 10. And if anybody would like to see the Americans competing at the World Cup, check out the video that we did last week, the video showcase, the 2006 World Cup, which was such a classic event, and it's still up there at Inside FoosTV. Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, Michael, what was the very first foosball table you actually played on? What kind of table?
So my very first table was a brown marble coin op, and I practically beat the heck out of it. It was my dad's friend's table, and he'd given it to my dad, and tornado table, and that was my very first table, and my dad still has it to this day. It's really near and dear to us both. Yeah,
that's very cool. It's funny how that the generations have, of course, as tornado has progressed in their different models, they last and last and last.
They do, yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah,
they absolutely do.
Well, Michael, I'm glad you brought up, there's so much for us to do. We have a good player base, and there seems to be many, many players that would like to expand and do more with the sport. It's kind of a big tent, and there's room for the purely recreational player and the locally competitive player in leagues and people that want to train and play internationally. And we it seems like we are beginning to talk among ourselves and connect the dots and build a cohesive system. And that's not going to be a one size fits all. People have different things they want to do with foosball, just like there are, different levels of golfer or bowler.
Right.
And it's exciting that people are talking, people who have been working in a certain realm or area of the game. And now with the formation of, a governing body, the USTSO, we're kind of putting these pieces together. And it's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, here's the deal,
Michael,
John.
You've been a big part of it, and we appreciate the way that every place you go, you talk about the youth programs and wanting to get players to recognize that we all have to kind of help each other out and build up the youth program if we're going to survive. Yep.
Well, listen, John, I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface. I love what I do. I love promoting foosball, and I think that everyone loves foosball. They just don't know it yet. And so if you can put a table in front of someone and you can teach them how to play it, it's like Rob Mara says. If you gave a dude a guitar and he didn't know how to play, would he know how to use it to its potential? Would he know how to appreciate it and have passion for it? He probably wouldn't. So we need to bridge that gap, and I think that's the toughest job now. Is to get a foosball table in front of a young dude or an old dude or whoever and just say, hey, this is how the game's played, and we love it. We know you'll love it, and so come and play with us. And it's just a thankless job as a promoter. I've been promoting foosball in Michigan for over a year now, And we're organizing our first state championships in October 2nd through the 4th, in Lansing, Michigan, where I actually was born and grew up and started playing. And it's such a tough job to be a promoter. If you're listening to this podcast right now, which, by the way, is an amazing podcast, I love it. I listen to every episode.
Thanks.
And you're a promoter, thank you for what you're doing. It is absolutely worth every minute you put into it, because it's going to collectively add into what everyone is doing to make the sport big again. I think we can do better than we did in the 90s. I think we should shoot for what we did in the 70s. So that's
absolutely great goal.
Thank you, Michael. Great stuff,
Well,
buddy.
thanks, Mike.
That's Michael Stahl. Michael
Thank
Stahl,
you, guys.
former junior bronze medalist, future men's team gold medalist. Michael Stahl.
There you go.
Hey, man, Jim
Thanks,
said
Mike.
it. It's got to happen now.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. Well, Michael,
Thanks,
And the
fellas.
callers just keep. Thanks, Michael. And the callers just keep on coming, Tom.
Yes, indeed.
Uh-oh.
And so the next we have up is Logan. Logan, thanks for, Logan, where are you? Okay, hold on one second here. I've just got to grab Logan. Here he is. Okay, Logan, thank you so much for joining us on FoosTalk Live.
Hey, Logan.
Hey, what's up?
Good to hear you. So, you got Jack with you?
Yeah, he should be joining in. I think he should be calling in now. And would you mind if I called Kyler?
Kyler LaRue?
Yeah, he said he'd join.
Yeah, okay. So either we've got one spot left, so it's either going to be first come first serve who jumps in.
No, like I was wondering, because I have my other phone with me and I can call, so it can be all three of us, if that works, if that's fine.
Why don't you do that? That'd be awesome. And so give us an idea where you're calling from.
Florence, Mississippi. I am currently on my deck outside.
Nice. Nice.
What's your temperature like?
It's kind of hot right now and humid, because it just got done raining about 5 o'clock.
That sounds like Mississippi.
Indeed.
Logan, you are a junior champion, a young player who I know has aspirations of advancing and becoming a pro player. Talk about your experience at the junior level.
I mean, it's I don't know. It's a lot more entertaining than I would say the events like Open or Pro, because there's just so many juniors that have so much potential, and it's just not all the same. Like, you have kids that do different things and you never know what to expect. So the junior level is by far my favorite out of Pro or any other event. And
you've been at 2 World Championships and 2 World Cups now, right?
Yes, sir.
17 and 19, yeah. And Logan was the captain of the 2019 junior team. Yeah. You did a great job.
Now
Well, thank you.
Been joined by Jack DeFeo. So, Jack, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Hey there, Jack.
So I'm part of actually I'm from Mr. O'Brien, or I call him Mr. O'Brien's school, and I'm part of their Foosball Club there. I'm also part of the junior team. I just wanted to call in to give you like my perspective of how Foosball clubs in school is.
Hi, Jack. Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
So, Jim, Tom, I think you met Jack over at Trick Shot one weekend when we came over.
Yep, Jack. Yep, absolutely.
and
remember Jack.
Jim, I'm not sure if you had a chance to meet Jack. He's been down to a couple of world events, and of course he was over in Spain, but you were busy.
I was a little bit busy, yes.
You were a little busy, yeah. And maybe both Logan and Jack, if you're both on, you could talk about the dynamic of playing on a junior team with players from around the country that maybe that you didn't know before, and playing against kids from countries you didn't know before.
You want to start, Jack?
I mean, it was very interesting getting to meet a bunch of different people and their different play styles. I mean, from where I'm from, most people typically shoot the same shot. It was either pull or snake that I usually went against, and then the passing series was either it was usually just attacking series that I went against. But when I went to Spain and I played against all these different people, they had all sorts of different shooting styles and passing styles, such as, like the back pin, the different tables. Obviously made things interesting with the Bonzini that I've never played on before. And it was very interesting to see everyone from all around the world playing in different all sorts of different styles.
And to kind of piggyback on that, whenever I went to my first World Cup in Hamburg, Germany, I kind of had an idea of who all did what, and kind of idea of what each country had to offer, because I played almost every country while I was in Germany, and then I came to Spain and everything changed. Like, I remember one kid did something, and then in Spain he did the complete opposite thing. So I was kind of in a loop, and I didn't know what to do, but also it made it very exciting for me because it gave me a new challenge to fight for.
Okay, so you're saying that you brought your experience from being in Germany, and when you got to Spain, you found that even kids from those same countries their game had morphed and changed by the time they got to Spain.
Yes.
By
a lot, too.
2 years can be a long time for a 15 or a 17-year-old.
Yes.
Not so much for you and I.
A lot can change.
And like my dad was telling me, he always tells me I need to get fired up, because anybody that knows me when I first started out, I'm a very quiet player. I don't like to yell or anything. But then whenever we were in Spain, everybody was yelling after they scored and getting hyped up. And my dad was telling me, hey, you need to start doing that so you can start getting yourself fired up. And shortly after that, every time somebody would score on our team, I would yell as loud as I could. And it helps. It actually really does.
Oh, it does. Yeah, and that's one of the great things about that team format is you're cheering for not only your fellow countrymen, but your friends, your teammates, and it's a big part. It's almost a necessary part of having success in that format, isn't it? Isn't it, Logan?
Oh yeah, definitely. It also definitely helps build the team up. Instead of just playing, they can actually get together as a team when they get excited like that.
Now, the two of you and Jack, you guys share an experience of being part of, Junior Team USA, but then you each bring different strengths to this conversation also. Logan, you've been on tour, much more than Jack. And then Jack brings the school club experience. Maybe Jack, what would you say about being part of a school club and team? What has that meant for you?
I've gotten to meet a ton of people who I've never met before. I personally do sports year-round, and I have fairly good grades. So I hang out with this certain group of people. But when I started Foosball Club, I got to meet all these people, a lot of them, who either didn't do sports or weren't a part of a club, and they just wanted to try foosball. And so it gave them something to do. And I got to meet a bunch of cool new friends through it. And first going overseas in Spain, I got to meet Logan and Koji and Sam and Hannah and all of them.
Don't forget Kylie.
But and Kylie.
He's listening.
But in particular, what I thought was so cool was the fact that I think a couple of years ago we had a student who was very troublesome, but he was in Foosball Club, and I remember you actually told him that if he didn't, stop causing a bunch of trouble, that he would be kicked out of Foosball Club. And so he stopped causing trouble, and he got his grades up, and he joined. It was that simple. So
it was that simple.
It was a motivation factor for him.
Foosball fixes everything.
Yes, it does.
Thanks.
Well,
so I've got to ask both of you.
Right.
Because you really have represented your country as foosball players. What was it like to step out there and listen to the crowds that were there in Spain this last year? How did you feel when that happened?
Jack, you can go first if you want to.
I felt terrified because I was kind of scared. But then, once I got off the table and I actually got to meet people, they're actually really nice off the table. But of course, during competition, the screaming, it's kind of motivational. Like if you're losing and your team's like in the background screaming for you to keep pushing on and keep going forward, it's really motivational. It helped me keep going forward and push forward when I was in a tough spot. So
Gotcha.
interesting.
Now, will either of you be eligible to play for Team USA next year? Logan, I think I know how old you are. Jack, I don't know how old you are. Are you going to be eligible to compete in France in 2021, providing everything goes as planned?
I believe Logan is.
Well, they both are. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Nope.
we just I thought you were talking to Jack. Yeah, me and my dad figured it up that I'll be turning 19 in July, so it kind of fits the same way as it did in Spain. So I'll be able to be on the team one more time.
Nice.
Because you talked about crowds. The crowds in Spain will be nothing like what you will see in France. Of course, you remember Hamburg, Logan, what the crowds were like there. But the crowds in France, we've had as many as 2,000 people, locals from the town of Nantes, cheering. And of course, it's really quite an environment and something for hopefully both of you to look forward to.
Oh yeah, I remember in Germany when the finals were going on, you had to stand on the side in the stands because everyone was there. And then last year with Spain, not a whole bunch of teams could make it, so there was a big drop in the player count. So it wasn't as big crowds as normal. So hopefully that'll change for France, because that's very exciting to hear that many people cheering for one certain team or multiple.
Right. It's so different.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Looks like we have a few more callers waiting, Tom. We've got, what do we have? About 37 minutes left in the show.
Right.
We are limited, I believe, to 2 hours.
Thank you guys both for calling in.
Yeah. Logan,
oh, you're welcome. Kyler told me to tell you that he will call in once we get done. So.
Oh, well, good. We're glad to hear that, because we got to abuse Kyler tonight. There's no plain and simple. But so you are listening to FoosTalk Live. We're coming to you live from Colorado, from upstate New York, in a car. And John is joining us, hopefully in fair weather, in the Syracuse area. And we're talking FoosTalk Live. Wow, John, you're attracting a lot of attention tonight.
Well, foosball is.
Okay.
Youth foosball. Yeah.
And again, we'd love to hear from you here at FoosTalk Live with Tom Robinson and Jim Stevens on a Friday night here in America. So far, we've heard from Australia. We've heard from Mississippi. We've heard from New York, of course, where you guys are, and Rhode Island. Yep. Cincinnati. So we're really working the map tonight, Tom Robinson.
Yeah, I got to say, now I understand that Sam DeJean, who was on Team USA this last year, and I believe in Germany the 2 years before that, has also been threatening to call in tonight. So the gauntlet has been thrown down in your direction.
Call in, Sam.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, Sam, and Kyler as well. In fact, let's get Sam on right now. Here he is. He's stepping up to the plate. Sam, what's going on, man?
Nothing much.
Hey, pal.
Hey, Sam.
Hey.
Sam, so what's it like in shall we say Foosland, in your basement there?
Yeah, you got quite the basement there.
It's fun. We've been practicing every other day just so I can hit the baseball every other day. We practice for like 30 minutes to an hour, and yeah, me and my dad play matches against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And so if you beat your dad, what do you get in return? What is there some kind of incentive?
I haven't thought of that yet.
Well, I think you've got company here. You brought Kyler with you. So Kyler, welcome to FoosTalk.
Hey, Kyler.
LaRue from upstate New York in the 518.
Hello.
What's up, man?
What's up?
So, Kyler, you and Sam traveled to Spain for the World Cup. Just give our audience an idea. What did you expect when you first went, and did it turn out the way you thought it would?
I honestly, this is my first overseas tournament and first multi-table tournament. I didn't know what to expect, and I got more than I expected. It was the best experience I've had.
Great.
Outstanding. Sam?
I going to Germany. Like we didn't know what to expect, and then like I was like 8 years old and stuff. We played and like we didn't win that much because we didn't know what to expect, and yeah, and then we went to Spain and we knew what we were like doing and expecting, and we did better than we did in Germany.
Wow.
And Sam made it to the podium.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I've got a quick question for both of you guys. Now, Sam, I want you to go first. What's your least favorite table to play on at the World Cup?
Oh my god. Probably the Bonzini.
Yeah.
It's always one of two answers. There's only two tables that are even into consideration, I have to tell you.
Oh,
what about Kyler?
Bonzini, without a doubt.
Oh, 2 for Bonzini. What's with you guys? It's the best table in the world. What are you talking about?
Do you know what it is for me? And it's the other one. It's the Garlando. The Garlando is really
I was going to say,
on.
Jim, I don't think our kids played many matches on the Garlando over in Spain this last time.
Actually, one of my favorite tables. I played really well on it.
Oh, there you go.
I played horrible on it.
Hey, now, you guys, what about the new Roberto Sport, the Revolution? How'd you like that table?
I like that table.
You've got one at home now, right?
Yeah, I like how it's like sticky and you can you can shoot better since it's more sticky, and you can do like better brushing. It could help. Maybe it could help like if you practice brushing on that table, you'll have like
so jealous.
Like deeper, like deeper and like better like brushing on the Tornado maybe.
Yeah. I know our kids, our junior team really loved that Revolution table.
It's a vast improvement over previous generations of Roberto Sport. I think my first table I ever got, which I think came from Sears, was comparable to the earlier Roberto Sports, I must say. But the new one is really nice, and that's true. It's really come back towards the middle a little bit, towards a more professional style, an ITSF multi-table style of table.
So, Jim and John, I have a quick question for you guys. How does a table manufacturer actually get their table on the floor at a World Cup competition? What has to happen?
Jim, you probably know better than I do.
Well, I don't know all the specifics, but there is definitely a process that does take a few years. You have to go through a certain number of events held. It has to do with you have to meet a certain protocol as far as the style of table, as far as with Tornado, of course, early on with the extra three men on the goalie rod was an issue, and they had to actually make a change at one point and put one man on the goalie rod. So there are specific things, although they still haven't taken out that banked edge on the Garlando, which I wish they would.
Gotcha.
But there is a protocol to do it, and I think they limit it to 5, although I think at times they've had 6 different tables. But it's a very strict protocol that you have to go through in order to get your table officially sanctioned. There are recognized tables as well. The Rosengard for a long time in Europe was a recognized table. Warrior, a recognized table, but that's a step below. Still ITSF tables, but not the official ones that would be used in a multi-table.
But there are like 3 levels now.
Yeah.
So is it practice to bring in a table that has to come from a different country in each case? In other words, you wouldn't have 2 American tables at a World Cup competition?
Probably not. There are 2 Italian tables. The Garlando and the Roberto Sport are both made in Italy. Although the Garlando table is a table predominantly used in Eastern Europe and Great Britain. So figure that one out. Whereas the Roberto Sport is one of the more popular and not the most popular table in Italy, but it is the one used for ITSF. So there are 2 Italian tables, although really the Garlando isn't an Italian table. The Italians actually don't play on the Garlando as much as the Eastern Europeans or, surprisingly, the British.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. So, Sam and Kyler, what are you doing to keep yourself busy in these times of, doing nothing?
Playing with my dog a lot. I play with my dog a lot. I go outside, play basketball, and then I play on the Xbox, basically. That's it.
Xbox. Kyler?
Yeah.
I started lifting again because my knee got cleared after I hurt my knee a couple years
good.
ago.
Awesome.
So practicing a little bit, but I have to go buy a new bearing wrench because mine broke to play on my foosball table because it's really broken right now.
Hopefully, a little homeschooling taking place as well.
I was wondering about that. You guys skipping classes or what?
It certainly here. It certainly is here in the Stevens household. I can tell you that 2 or 3 hours a day we spend as teachers, John.
Yep.
John, we take our hat off to you. It's a tough job.
Well, and
thanks,
it's
guys.
certainly different. It's I'm interacting with my students online through the computer, a lot of email, and it's just not the same. There's so many. I'm a tech teacher, and there's so many hands-on activities that we're just not getting to. It's kind of a bummer, but hopefully things will sort themselves out, and we'll be back in the fall.
Yeah, if only I had have invested in Zoom back in February.
Right.
Yeah, like the rest of us, right? We'd all be millionaires by now. No question about it. I have one final parting question for both Kyler and Sam here. So, guys, when are you going to get back on the table? When are you going to actually start competing again? Any guesses as to when that might happen?
Not sure. Me and Kyler were talking about like getting together and maybe just practicing, maybe.
Okay.
And that's it basically. We don't know. I don't know when we get back.
I do what Sam does basically. Like if there's a tournament that he goes to, I might go to it. I always travel with the DeJohn family because my family's not really into foosball. So whatever tournaments they go to, I'll probably go to.
Well, you're part of our family.
Yeah, of course.
Yep, that's for sure. No, it's awesome to hear from both of you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Keep up the good work.
You too. Have a good night.
Wow, what a lineup we've had here so far tonight. This is covering a lot of bases when it comes to.
See, you guys didn't even need me.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. The analytics speak for themselves tonight, John.
You're the motivation, and here comes Super Chuck from the 518. Super Chuck Dooley. Chuck, thanks for joining us on FoosTalk Live.
Hey, I just want to say, great show, guys.
Hey,
John,
Chuck.
it's good hearing from you and hearing how you make the success of foosball in the schools. I really just want to chime in that teacher from Rhode Island was asking about what kind of software to use, and Jim brought up NetFoos.
Yeah.
And NetFoos is great. That's what we use. It's great for single events and it's great for multi event tournaments. And it also keeps track of the stats. But if I was in a school setting, I would probably go with Kicker Tool, which has a thing in it called the Monster DYP, and it allows the lesser caliber players, let's say, a chance to play more because everybody plays every round. Nobody is out in two. And you can use an odd number of people, and people can come and go. If you start out with 17, you can add 2 and subtract 3. It's very easy and it's very it's very forgiving, I should say, for a lesser ranked player.
Chuck, I know that Mark Drillette is using something up at his school, and it might be that program. You call it Kinder Tool?
Kicker
Tool.
Kicker Tool. Okay.
Out of Germany. Yep.
Kicker Tool is the website, but at the website there's a bunch of different formats. But the Monster DYP is the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, the Monster DYP is a great format that I think more and more local programs should adopt moving forward. Hey, Chuck. By the way, which junior program are you a part of? I know you sound like maybe you're still in high school. Are you an after school player as well?
I've been held back a few years, Jim.
Just so we can keep playing foosball.
That's the motivation.
Hey, if they had a club when I was in school, I would be purposely held back.
Yes.
All right, so Chuck coming on with the Monster DYP, and again, people, yes, look into that. Look into Kicker Tool. Look into the Monster DYP. It's a great format.
So
thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, greatly.
My pleasure.
It. I know that Brandon has been waiting to get on here. Let's bring Brandon on to FoosTalk Live. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
I'm just I was wanted to ask John actually in regards to he's seen I'm sure tons of kids start the game recently and kind of like watching what they find so interesting about it. So what aspects of the game do you feel like keeps kids coming back week after week? Is it camaraderie? Is it repetition? Things like that, gamesmanship? Do they just really focus on hey, I love to pass or I love to shoot, or just what is it about the game that you think like we should probably focus on as a group whenever you do find someone that's semi entertained with the game that's something super important to make them
Really,
to go forward.
Brent, that's a really good question, and
Great question.
I'm very competitive. I'm athletic. I was, three sport, athlete, and so for me, when I started the program at my school, it was competitive. I was not thinking about what now has become the more important goals of our programs. I mean, we're still very competitive, but some of the students, keep in mind, I highly recommend that if schools have the opportunity to start it in the middle school, which in most places like a fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. And the reason I say that is that if you have a competitive individual who's in fifth and sixth grade, in most schools, they're not allowed to be involved in their school sports program yet. Okay, that usually starts in seventh grade. And so for that person, it's generally competitive. They want to win. But then there's other people who that's not what they want. And what happens is when you get to seventh grade, the competitive kids, they get involved in the school sport, but then they also continue to play foosball when we have after school programs or weekend events. They come back, so they stay connected. But then we find there's another group of player that stays engaged in foosball because of what you're saying, the connectedness. They don't feel drawn to a sport, but all of a sudden the foosball group has become their team, their family.
They're part of something, yes.
Exactly. Yes. And so the motivations for getting started really are very unique to the individual. And what we have identified and try to pass on to schools is that this activity does something that most of your other activities don't do. This activity appeals to a broad range of students. There are players, kids who they don't really like the whole big team sport, or maybe they can't commit to every day after school practice for 2 hours, or there's some students that they just need that quicker turnaround time. They just don't have the maturity to practice for that 1 or 2 games a week. But I think Deb was saying earlier that, boy, you get them on a table and the game's over in 5 to 7, 10 minutes. And so they're going through the win-loss cycle repeatedly. And so there's different motivations. And what we try to encourage our mentors and staff to do is recognize. There's times where I've tried to be like pushing the competitive angle on some students that wasn't their motivation. And I found I had to kind of back off, than pushing them away. And then there's others who they're so competitive, we've had to take them inside and say, you're discouraging the new kids because you just want to crush them. It's not just the adults who do that. Okay. Yeah. It's the kids that do that too. It's like, oh, fresh meat, I can really be, I can 5-0 this guy. It's like, no, yeah, but then he won't come back. Right. So we've had to balance things out, and it's been an excellent teaching tool in like character development because of that. We've had to keep an emphasis on being competitive, but also camaraderie and not scaring people away. And these are your classmates, and they might be your team members as we go compete against another school. So there's different motivations, and the staff member has to, the mentor, the coach has to kind of recognize that, what makes them tick, and feed that. Some players like Jack, who's just on, and some of the other, Team USA guys there who I didn't work directly with, so I can speak to Jack. He is a student of the game. He studies. He wants to learn.
Right.
And so for Jack, it was like little one-on-one time, and then he would implement it. Other kids, they're not of the mindset yet where they want to learn anything other than the rules and then just play. And their attention span for strategy or for skill development is low. And we still try to build that in. And we work into our program almost like a coaching time. Okay, you got to spend 10 minutes tic-tacking or passing back and forth and, pass and catch. And then we have some trainers, on the goal and practice your pull, practice your push, and so we try to make it, maybe 15 minutes of drills before they get to play. And for some, they love that, and they would do that for an hour. And others, they just can't wait to start playing.
Wow, that's some great stuff there, John. And a couple of things that you mentioned there, the win-loss cycle being a 7 to 10 minutes long or whatever. It really accelerates the process of learning how to lose and also learning how to win, doesn't
it? Absolutely.
And they're getting it at a faster rate, which, as opposed to a baseball game, which may be 2.5 hours, or a football game, 3 hours, whatever. They're getting it every 10 minutes.
And if they played, they might not even have gotten to compete. They're on the bench.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Great point. Great stuff. Great question from our one of our defending world champions in open doubles, Brandon Moreland. Thanks, Brandon, for pitching in again. Brandon's become a pretty regular caller, and a great question there for sure.
Long-time listener, long-time caller.
Yeah. It was really cool to listen to the young guys on just before I jumped on, just because it kind of put me in a place back.
You were one of
years
those
ago. Yeah, I was 14 when I started. And I totally started in the bar atmosphere, though. I know my dad's sneaking me in, and I got to go sit in the corner. That way they don't see me and stuff like that. And it's a different feel. And I also didn't have the youthful team membership as well, right? I didn't get to go do anything like that. I heard about this kid named Billy Pappas who was going to kill me, whenever I was like 15 or 16, and I showed up to Worlds and he beat the crap out of me at 12 years old, and I'm like, okay, that was fun.
And he was beating 30-year-old.
Yeah, I know. It's just such a weird experience because we didn't none of us knew each other. We weren't really good friends or anything like that. We saw each other once a year, right? Because it was Worlds,
right?
And I wasn't traveling anything else, and so that's kind of fun to hear. It'll be interesting to see where those guys go 20 years from now, how good of friendships they created. Even though we all created good friendships as well. But yeah, I could see that being an amazing, togetherness that they all create for each other. So that's
and Brandon, you bring up a good point, and this has become an increasingly important message in our youth work, because I'm not just involved in Foosball Clubs USA, but Foosball Clubs USA was asked to kind of head up the youth committee for USTSO, and there's 3 levels that we've identified. There is the purely recreational level, and we have many students in our programs that will play during lunch, but don't ever show up to a tournament on a Saturday. We have monthly tournaments during the middle part of the year, and so we will have tables crowded with players during lunch, but only some care to compete in a tournament, and then others who compete even in the tournaments, they're not interested in traveling as a team to the state event. They don't even try out for it, because it's a different experience. And so we have the recreational player, we have the competitive, we'll say tournament player, and then we have the folks that want to be part of that sort of elite team, whether it's your school team or we don't have state teams yet. I hope that we'll have state teams that will compete against other states. But then, of course, we have a national team. And so there's really 3 different levels, and it's not an either or. We want to develop a program that takes care of kids at any of those levels. The fellows that you heard today love that high level of competition, and many of them travel around to the tour stops and play. It's not either or. It's all of it.
And we want to welcome back to the show once again Deb Robison, who joined us earlier and saved our bacon on FoosTalk Live tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Deb.
Deb,
You're
come
very
on
welcome.
back. What have you got? What have you got for us?
I just something just popped in my head, and I just wanted to ask John to maybe speak to for just a minute. Maybe all of the callers have been male callers, and I'm just wondering what you're seeing in terms of how foosball clubs reach young women, and how this can be can build also the women's part of foosball, the sport of foosball.
Yes.
Yep. Really good. Early on in my school program, I would say it was 50-50. And some of my most thoughtful players were some of the girls. They seemed to take to the strategy of it. One gal in particular, Kelsey, was kind of a leader among that group. And over time, we have had some very competitive girls. By and large, the competition seems to be, and this happens at the adult level too, the folks who go into the competition, it's been mostly guys, even at the middle school and the high school level. The girls tend to stay actively engaged in the younger grades. And I don't know exactly what draws their attention off and why they don't continue on to the same degree that the guys do. But what I will say is that there's no, at least at the middle school and the high school level, they're playing on equal footing, which is what's really exciting. And we've had a number of girls who realized, hey, I can hang on the table with the guys. And they've been, at times, like I said, some of our better players have been these female players. And so that's another thing that foosball brings to a school, is it's a coeducational activity.
Mm-hmm.
Size doesn't matter. Obviously with Sam, that, Sam is really kicking butt on people who are, much taller than he is. Where you can't say that with most other sporting activities. You might idealistically think, well, everybody can play basketball, everybody can play, football. Yes, but physical size does matter. Where with foosball, it really doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter. Size doesn't matter.
Age.
Yeah, age doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, those are great points, and I'll just bring up Cindy Head and Moya Thielens, 2 ladies who have had tremendous success in open competitions and going up against men. And oftentimes the lady players are, as you said, John, a little more thoughtful, maybe because they have to be. Maybe the reactions and the strength aren't there, but oftentimes they are smarter players.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. We in our program, I say most of our students are girls actually that participate. Really? A higher percentage are girls. And in fact, when we went to the Kentucky state championship game, I think the last time we went, I think we took all girls.
Wow.
So it's just a different kind of experience.
Yep.
But I love that our girls can compete, and I love that they get this real sense of accomplishment and satisfaction, and they're hanging in there just with just like the guys are. So
absolutely.
Right, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks for calling back, Deb,
Deb.
and thanks for saving John's bacon a little earlier.
It's a team effort.
That's right. The whole thing is.
And it really is. And it is with you, John. I know it isn't just you. You're kind of the guy that began all of this, but you really do count on a team of individuals
Absolutely.
now around the country to make this all happen.
Yeah, and there's just so many people that have helped Foosball Clubs USA get going, and I think it's fair to say that we're in a new place. We used to be the new, oh, that's interesting. There's this group up in New York that's doing something with school programs. But now, really, I would say that Foosball Clubs USA has been embraced by the foosball community, and there's just so many people that have helped us get going because they had a vision. They saw that what we were doing was going to be good for foosball.
Right.
I mentioned Dave Corrington early on. Without Dave giving us a killer deal on a couple of tables, then my school probably wouldn't have bought the tables. And if my school didn't buy the tables, then Foosball Clubs USA probably wouldn't exist today. And so that was great. And then Mary Moore was quick to see the value of reaching the next generation and came on board and gave us a lot of PR and really spoke to the players about what we were doing and has helped us over the years. And other folks from Tornado and Brendan Flaherty he's been great. Call we talk at length about youth foosball and goals and expansion and ideas, and he's given us stuff, and so Brendan's also been a great one. I mentioned Kevin Westcott, who was the New York State rep, who got us connected and helped set up a junior event over in Albany, where I brought 8 more players to, and they were the only 8 junior players, but the adult players there treated them like royalty. It was wonderful. I mentioned Charles McIntosh and what he and his wife have done for our program. Just all the vendors have been terrific. Jim Waterman giving us shout outs and PR, and he's been great. And so really, and I'd be remiss also because there's another player who really was instrumental early on, and that's Greg Mendell.
Right.
I didn't know Greg, but Kevin Westcott did. And so when I took a bunch of kids to Albany where they were the only 8 players there, Greg volunteered to put on a clinic for my kids. And I'm thinking, wow, we're getting this pro player to give a clinic to my junior kids. This is terrific. But it didn't stop there. I mean, he wanted to get involved, and he had just come back from Germany, and he told me that when he went over to the World Championship, the World Cup, he was just really struck with the team approach. Everybody in their uniforms and everybody with a team spirit, and it wasn't just every man for himself. And he kind of connected that team approach with what we were doing with the foosball clubs, and he just really helped us. He brought a great deal of expertise. He was a promoter and tournament organizer, and so he was very instrumental. We definitely would not have grown as quickly without his sort of mentoring me in how to arrange and organize things. And so everybody like Mike Stahl there has been great in promoting youth foosball in his club programs. So just everybody has done a terrific job, and I'm excited to see what the foosball community is going to do with reaching out to the next generation. And there's probably avenues for developing foosball that none of us has even thought of yet.
True that.
But as we put our heads together, we'll do it.
So, John, I just wanted to ask you, I know because more recently, because of the pandemic, you weren't able to do the telethon with Jim Stevens in upstate New York at the Junior Championships, which is unfortunate. So for those who are listening right now, what would you want to tell people they can do right now to help Foosball Clubs USA?
There's a number of things. Probably the biggest thing is to see how they can get connected with their local school. Now, folks are going to have to be patient, myself included. When the schools return to operation, their focus is not going to be on introducing some new program.
Sure.
And so we may have to just kind of build relationships and understand, but hey, now's the time to build those relationships, particularly if you already know staff members there. In addition to that, there's financial needs. I am retiring from my teaching. I'm 63, retiring in June, and foosball is going to be a big part of what I do in my retirement. And right now, Foosball Clubs USA has a trailer, and we have a number of tables that we can bring to events, and that has served us here in New York. But we have programs. We have 28 programs in 10 different states. And I would love to be able to set up a trailer in different regions of the country with responsible program mentors involved who can bring tables and set up and run a state event like we do here in New York State. And so we do need we need an infrastructure. We need tables that are part of the program that we can bring around, because we can't be taking tables out of schools to go set up at another school. And so we need to have tables and trailers, cargo trailers that we can do that with. And so financial support, we need to do mailings and contact schools. And so if they go to our website, there's a donate button. We'd love to have folks donate. And people have. Folks have done Facebook campaigns. They've done birthday celebrations where people donate to Foosball Clubs USA. I'm waiting. I know that there are folks out there in the foosball community, but even not in the foosball community, but just care about kids, who are connected with companies, corporations.
Yes.
There's money out there, and we have received some sizable donations from corporate donors that we've been very appreciative of, and has helped us to provide tables to schools. And I would love to hear from people who have a connection with a company that wants to give back to the community, that wants to support a youth program. We would love to work with them in setting up some sort of giving program or sponsorship program, sponsor an event, sponsor tables, sponsor a school. So sponsor the junior USA team. So that's how folks could get involved.
Excellent. Very, very nice. Well,
head over to Foosball Clubs USA to get involved. If you'd like to, and I know we only have a minute or two left here, Tom.
Yes. We've set a lot of records tonight. We set a couple of records, as in beating the storms, not letting that defeat us, but also going the longest we've gone so far for an episode of FoosTalk Live.
We're going to have to do it again with John, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I think this means we'll have to have you back.
I am available, and I would be happy to call in and chime in on somebody else's party.
Okay, cool. We have one more question. You ready for one more question?
Sure.
JJ is calling in. JJ, welcome to FoosTalk.
Hey, JJ.
Good afternoon. How are y'all?
Great.
Or good evening, rather.
Yeah.
Jim, how are you doing?
Good, buddy.
JJ, of course, for some folks who may not know, is one of the coaches of the junior team.
And the father of Logan.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Welcome, JJ.
Good. How are y'all doing?
Real
Thank you for having the show.
You're welcome.
Sure. So, JJ, you planning ahead for 2021?
Yes, sir, I am. Or trying to, anyways.
Yeah, we're trying. Yeah, we may have to come up with some creative ways of qualifying players and identifying them. We've lost many tournaments for that purpose, but.
Well, JJ, as the father of a top junior player, I mean, how much input do you have into what Logan is doing? Are you basically his coach as well as being part of the junior team? I know you've been on the tour for quite a long time. Logan has really grown up on the tour. How much of an influence do you have on Logan's improvement as a player?
I try to have a decent amount of input. He gets a lot of his input from people like Terry and Tony and Rob Mares and those fellows. My biggest thing is trying to keep him on the table and just repetition, not losing what he has. So keeping him interested is the hardest thing, because we don't have tournaments. Even when foosball is happening, we have no tournaments in Mississippi. He has to, if he has to play anywhere, he plays on tour events. And other than that, we play at a friend of ours business. He has 4 tables in his office, and me and Logan and Donald Wilson and a few other players try to meet up there once a week and play for a couple of hours, and that's about it.
Wow.
Well, you've done a good job.
Time to set up a new club.
Yeah, we need to figure out
JJ,
something
did you
around
have
in
anything?
Mississippi. What's that?
No, I just wondered if you had another question for John. We're down to about the last, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes here?
Yep.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I just want to call in and tell guys thank you. John, we've talked a couple of times about what you're doing up there, and just keep doing what you're doing. You're bringing in the talent. Is figuring out getting out to more schools is the biggest thing. And Jim, keep doing what you're doing. I think what you're putting on YouTube is really, really helping.
Yes.
So,
thank you, buddy. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
it's a whole team effort. Yep.
Thank
all right,
man.
you guys have a good night.
JJ, thank you for your
Thanks,
efforts.
JJ.
Right, thank you.
All righty. So there you have it, FoosTalk Live. I mean, again, the record number of callers, record length of time on the air. Let's see if we can maintain this momentum. This is the high bar mark, John.
Oh, hey, people love foosball. Like Mike said, they just don't know it.
That's it.
Exactly. That's great. The T-shirts are coming. Yeah.
Well, see if we can get it licensed like tonight. We'll see what we can do. Absolutely.
And I really,
John. Go ahead,
Real quick, Tom. I really feel like there's a whole other show in this. I think we've really kind of scratched the surface. Again, remind people if they'd like to become a part of this, if they'd like to donate to Foosball Clubs USA, head over to foosballclubsusa.com. But what a great show. And again, we're going to have to do it again, Tom.
Yeah, I think there's a
well,
lot
thank
more
you guys
material.
thanks for putting this together.
Oh, absolutely. I will do whatever it takes to get this to happen.
Thank you, John. Watch out for falling trees.
That's right.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you've been listening to FoosTalk Live. Thanks again to John O'Brien of Foos Clubs USA, foosballclubsusa.com. Please visit his website, and make a donation today as soon as you can and help the cause, because we all want to maintain this sport. And regardless of whether the lights are on or not, we're still going to do FoosTalk Live. Jim, any parting shots for this evening? I take it not. I guess not. And
well.
You've been listening to FoosTalk Live. John or Jim, is that you again?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, I've got a little bit of a little teaser for you as well, Tom.
Okay.
2 weeks from tonight, we will be joined here at FoosTalk Live by the #1 player in the world.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to. I'll have to
course.
think about that.
Well, I think we all know him, of course. It's Tony Spreadman, who has agreed to join us 2 weeks from tonight on FoosTalk Live. We'll keep you posted on who we'll have next week. Heck, maybe John O'Brien again, for all we know. But in 2 weeks, Tony will be joining us, and we'll get a chance to talk with him. And so, and the example I think everyone said tonight was the show is better when you call in. It's as simple as that. So please. Call in next week, starting next week, and let's make this a regular interactive meeting every Friday night.
Oh, absolutely. This is the place to be. All right, Jim. Thank you so much for your help tonight. And FoosTalk Live will be back next Friday with the #1 player. You say next Friday? Is that what you're saying, Jim?
2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks. In 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be joined by Tony Spreadman. FoosTalk Live is a production of Foosball Radio and Inside FoosTV, brought to you in part by 518 Prince. Also, Foosballers the Movie, and by foosballclubsusa.com. Have a great one. Have a great night, and stay out of the way of falling trees.
Thanks, Tom. We'll see you foozin'.